world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi. Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
You're not just Reverend A.R. Bernard. You're Chief Reverend A.R. Bernard, or Co-Chief. You now have been appointed as Co-Chief Chaplain of NYPD. And Cardinal Dolan is the other Co-Chief Chaplain, which is historic.
Yeah. Well, from one chief to another chief, because you are Chief Chaplain of the FDNY. So we've all been elevated, I guess.
Well, it just shows you that one chief chaplain at FDNY is doing the work of two co-chief chaplains at
NYPD. Go there.
It took two of you to make one of me. So, all right.
Exactly. That's it.
Yeah,
what can I tell you? Yeah.
So there was a program years ago called This Is Your Life. Ralph Edwards, I remember, was the host, and they would bring out people from the past that meant a lot to you. And the guest we have today is family to me, family that gets along. And I'm talking about Deacon Kevin McCormack, who is the superintendent of schools in the Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn. And he and I were together for many years on a program called Religion on the Line. How many years, Deacon?
We were there 12 years. 12 years. We started in 06 and went to 18.
Yeah.
Wow. And we got to talk about that, because we got to unpack what New York City was like and what the country was like at that time. But first, we want to talk about Catholic schools, because there's a lot going on there, Deacon, correct?
Yeah. Earlier this week, we had a very difficult announcement to make. We're closing 7 of our schools. We have 63 schools now, and we have to close 7 of them at the end of the school year. It's based basically on the fact that the enrollment has dropped, and as enrollment drops, finances become more and more difficult. And we've tried everything we can to work with these places. And here's the thing: each of these schools have great administrators and wonderful teachers and sacrificing parents. And the kids, look, let's be serious, the kids are just a delight. And so it would be so easy if I could say, oh, somebody messed up, but the system has failed us, and unfortunately we can't carry them at this point. And it's a very devastating time for us.
When you say the system has failed you, what exactly do you mean?
Well, you know what it is, Rabbi? When you look at New York City, you can go to public school, which there always was, and they're a great public school. They're great public school teachers and stuff, and we love them. I know them because a lot of them go to my schools. And you can also go to a charter school. And charter schools go in and they get funded by the city. But yeshivas and Christian schools and Catholic schools, we're on our own. And our parents have to carry the whole freight. Our parents are paying somewhere around $6,000 as an average, but it's costing us about 10 to 12 to educate them, as opposed to the astronomical numbers that are being used to educate the kids in the public system.
Deacon, talk about tax credits and school vouchers that are available to parents.
Reverend, thank you so much for that slide in on the conversation. See, right now, New York State has no choice. We have decided not to allow choice of education. You only have a public or a charter if you're going to be subsidized by the taxpayers. But interestingly, the federal government in their latest budget created a federal scholarship tax credit. Now, just give me a minute just to explain it. So, it's beginning in 2027. Anyone who pays federal taxes can earmark $1,700 of those taxes and get a credit if they bring it into a scholarship granting organization. So that means in the case of the Diocese of Brooklyn, we have Futures in Education. The Archdiocese of New York has theirs. Rockville Center has theirs. And I'm sure there are many, in fact, I know for a fact, there are many Jewish and Christian scholarship granting organizations which would be able to receive these funds and then be able to use it for scholarships for kids to move into, to be able to supplement their schooling. The problem is we need the governor to opt in. We have over 50 of the governors, over half of the governors already have, and many of them from blue states. We need Governor Hochul to do this.
Wow. So you know what I never understood in this whole discussion? Charter schools and private schools and parochial schools. At the end of the day, we're looking to enhance education. We're looking to make sure that the education we present is great, is qualitative. And we should do everything we can to make sure that people have a path that is not, obstacle loaded to get into one of these schools. So I don't know why over the years we're always talking about, vouchers and this. Why don't we just say we want good schools, and if there are good schools out there, we have to support them?
You make it sound so easy, Rabbi. Look, it's intersecting cultural, economic, demographic, and ecclesial shifts are taking place over time. But the biggest thing, and I think Deacon McCormack is going to speak to that, is cost. The cost has become the deciding factor. At one time, religious orders sustained the Catholic schools. Correct, Deacon?
But unions are also a major factor, aren't they?
Well, I want to make sure there's a distinction between the teachers' union and the teachers themselves. The teachers themselves, the administrators, these are outstanding people. They're out there. They're using their own money to make sure their kids in their public schools are taken care of. The union, on the other hand, it seems to be its only purpose is to make sure it perpetuates itself. And there's actually some real, to use the expression fake news, they're saying that the public school kids will actually be hurt in this program. Absolutely, categorically false. They also will be able to benefit from this federal tax credit. And then that's the thing that kind of drives me crazy. If you look at Florida or you look at Ohio right now, these are states that allow choice, they allow competition, and you say what you want about Florida or Ohio. I mean, I've only been to them once or twice. Here's the bottom line: their school systems are thriving because there's competition, because people are charged to be best. And that goes back to what you said, Rabbi, about isn't it about the kids and the best we can do? Last thing on this, just allow me this. The best anti-poverty program for people in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s has been private schools. And look, I'm looking at it from a Catholic perspective. Catholic schools have shifted the way that middle class worked. I have no doubt the same is true for our Jewish schools and our Christian schools.
You know how I know you're Christian, by the way, Deke? When you just said before that you've only been to Florida twice. That was a giveaway. I can't get any member of my people to say that. Yeah. It's got to be very painful. I don't want to harp on it, but closing schools, closing churches, closing synagogues, whatever it is, it's not just a statistic. There's a human sacrifice. There's a human element that has to, really impact you and others who have to make those decisions.
It's been a tough week for me and my staff and working together. Bishop Brennan breaking his heart to have these schools closed, and it's tough on us, but it's nothing compared to the families that have a legacy there. We have some schools where grandparents, parents, and children have gone through that school. We have teachers that are taking they're making a sacrifice in their salary because they believe in the schools. They have to find new jobs now. We're going to help them. We're going to help all of them find a placement. But Rabbi, you hit the nail on the head. It breaks hearts, and there are real people here who are suffering because of it.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I'm Protestant, but my grandchildren, they went to St. Anthony's. They went to a Catholic school. I wanted them to have a Catholic education. They understood the distinction between the two expressions of Christianity. But it was a great experience for them, and costly. It was true, but you get what you pay for. It's a quality education.
You know, years ago, by the way, I was on the board, and Deacon knows this, of Zavarian High School. They wanted diversity, so they had, me on the board. And I go to the first meeting, and the question was, what are the tuitions all of you are paying at your schools, at, the parochial schools? Catholic schools, $6,000, $5,000, $4,000. They come to me. I said, yeshiva? $20,000, $25,000,
Yeah.
I mean, and I thought to myself, how can you make it work for $6,000?
Yeah, and that's a tough thing.
Yep, you scrimp and you save. You look for all kinds of ways to do fundraising. For those of you who are Catholic who are listening, I think World's Finest Chocolate is a sacramental. We sell it all the time.
Deacon, hold on right there. We've got to go to a break, and we'll come back to the chocolate and the quarters and dimes that you used to put in the little folder thing to raise money.
Right.
I remember those days.
That's right.
We'll be right back with more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joe Sputosnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard. I think we left the last segment talking about chocolate, right, Deacon?
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking with Deacon Kevin McCormack, who is the superintendent of schools in the Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn. And by the way, Rev, I want you to know he loves bagels. And the years we were together, I taught him, it was easy, that a bagel is incomplete unless it has lox on it.
I learned.
Yeah, he learned. Or as you say, Rev, a schmear.
Schmear, of course. Schmear.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
So was that part of raising money, the selling of candies and cookies and things like that to try to help?
Sure. So a while back, so I started Catholic school in 1965, which was the peak of the population in the country of Catholic schools. And since 1965, the population of schools has declined continuously. There's been no blip up. Anyway, with that being said, when you had 400, 500, 600 kids in the school, the chocolate was for the extra things, and they were gift wrapping, and there would be all kinds of fundraisers that were done. They usually went back in to kind of make things nicer. Over the years, they became essential, and we're using chocolate as an example because it's ubiquitous throughout the city. Everybody kind of sells it at one point, and the people at World's Finest are wonderful. They're great people, but a lot of the fundraising is being done to make up the gap between what it costs to educate the kids and what the parents are able to pay.
One of the things I've said to the Rev is people always talk about education is the answer. You want to diminish hatred, education. You want people to be more civil to each other, education. And the answer is yes, but you need moral education.
Correct.
Right? You need values being instilled in the kids. And
in Catholic language, you need the formation of the conscience. You have 100%. To have an informed conscience. Yeah.
And that's why, and you pointed this out in the first segment, Reverend, Catholic schools are not just for Catholic kids. We have, and here's an occasion, we have many Greek Orthodox and we have many Protestant evangelical people who come just for what you said, Reverend. They want a place where there are certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong, and that are also age appropriately discussed. The way I talk about morality with a 12th grader is not going to be the way I speak to a second grader, and we're bound by eternal truths, not by the whim of the day, and people want that. You see that in your own communities, but they also find it very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I love the language, age appropriately discussed.
Right.
That is so important.
So
you can't bring certain things into a kindergarten class with kindergarten children that they have no idea what's being presented to them.
Exactly, Reverend. I'm sorry to talk over you. Whose needs are being met? Is it some agenda that's coming from outside, or is it the need of that kid and that family?
So Deacon, if you look at the trend, you see the closing of schools, closing of houses of worship. What do we do? How do we stem that? How do we try to turn it around if it is all possible?
I think for the schools, we go right back to asking Governor Hochul to please opt in. That's not negotiable. We need that immensely. For our houses of worship, I think, Reverend, I think you can agree with me. We got to go back to our basics. I think we tried to be too many things to too many people along the way, and we forgot our focus. Yeah. And our focus is and I think the three of us can agree on this. Our focus is that we have a God who cares and is directly involved in history, directly involved with his people, who wants them to become more and more loving, caring, and making the world better. And I think that's a dogma we all can agree on.
Yeah. Part of human flourishing requires order, structure, systems, values. All of those things lend themselves to human flourishing. It can't be chaotic. It can't be random. We can't have a successful society with that kind of mindset. Absolutely, Deacon.
You know, when the Reverend and I talk about the unaffiliated and what can get people to turn to houses of worship, we say you got to stick to a message that resonates. You got to value something that you're coming to hear or see. And people, they don't need the rev or the rabbi or the pastor to read the New York Times to them. They don't need that. They can do that on their own. What they do need is to hear what their tradition has to say about issues of the day, eternal messages, but you got to get back to basics.
We're seeing in the Catholic Church a resurgence with young people. Now, look, we're not looking at the numbers we saw in the 60s and 70s and 50s, but we're seeing people that are coming back and they want to know more. They're also not afraid of mystery, where I think in my time we kind of tried to intellectualize mystery. The Greek Orthodox never did that. They thrive on that. But again, and I'm not sure about in your world, Reverend, but in mine, the mystery kind of went to the side. We over-intellectualized. That doesn't mean that's not essential, by the way. I'm not wanting to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, the mystery and knowing that there's something bigger than us, I think is attractive to these young people, and they're coming in. We have one church that's going to have 140 baptisms, 140 baptisms on Easter, on Holy Saturday. That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Deacon, you struck a chord in my heart. I had a 12-year-old from our congregation whose family works in the ministry, father's a minister, came to see me after service and said, "Pastor, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "What do you love most about Christianity?" He's a 12-year-old kid. He's sharp. And I paused and I said, "Mystery." Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and it satisfied him. He can embrace that. He can understand that. And you know, Deacon, that Western civilization wants certainty. And you can't have certainty in everything. Mm-hmm. There has to be faith. Faith is a response to mystery. That's very, very real. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I love that.
If I could add one more thing to the discussion, I think they also want joy. We say, serve God with joy. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to hear a grumpy guy complaining every week about the state of the world. They want to hear that there's a purpose for their living and a positive purpose for their living. And I think we need to accentuate that as well.
Faith, hope, and love. That's the key, and we do it with a smile. Our bishop is very clear that we need to be joyful, we need to be unapologetic, and we need to be focused on the truth. And the joyful part is the essential part. You know, we know who we are, and we're pleased to know that our God blesses the work we do. And that's why we need our schools. And that's why we need Governor Hochul to sign that.
Rev, get on the phone. Come on.
Deacon, we're coming to the close. I don't know how much time you have left, but I mean, can you hang around with us for a little bit more? We've got to go to a break.
You tell me. I'd be honored to stick with you guys.
Fantastic. All right.
Don't get used to it, though, Deacon.
I have voted. That's all that matters. I have voted. So, stay tuned for more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.